Hello again. So here are the answers to the three questions that I asked you to look at the end of Tuesday's video. So here's number 12, just a standard partial fractions question. I'm using the order they gave me in the question, and I'm using substitution. So hopefully we're able to construct this line. What do I do to that to turn it into that? I need to multiply by the 3x minus 1 squared. This needs a bit of both, and this just needs the x plus 5. And then I substituted in minus 5 and a third, used my calculator to help me. And then I just had to pick another value, so I picked 0, nice easy value, which gives you an equation with d, e and f in, but I already know what d and f are, so I was able to work that out. And then 13 was written in this form. And so some of you will have equated, some of you will have multiplied that out and equated. Don't forget the plus d if you do that. I have to admit I'm just a huge fan of the division. So although I've shown you both ways, I'm unless it's a really fiddly one, going to go for division. So I rewrote this like this. This was the thing that had no missing value, so that's what I needed to divide by. So it turned it into this, which is the other sort of question we were dealing with. Divided it out. This is my answer. We call this the quotient. This is the remainder. So that was my quotient. That was my remainder. Those were my missing values. If you used equating, should have got the same answer. Okay. And then lastly, we've got the question 14, which looked like the ones you could do division. Again, if you are an equating fan, you could multiply everything by 2x plus 1 and equate it. I just divided it. Quotient from there, remainder from there. And remember what we've said, the order of the remainder will be 1 less than the order of the divisor, so that's got order 1, so I knew d was just going to be a number, no algebra involved. So we've done a bit of partial fractions, and we've done a bit of division, both of which have been operations we performed on rational functions, algebraic fractions. And so finally, here's a bit of both. Okay, so my question first is this a partial fraction question or is it a division question? It looks a little bit like both. I've got my A, B, C, but only B and C are over something. But it's not just quotient and remainder because I've got two remainders. And I know I can't use partial fractions as it is, because the order of the numerator is 2, and if I were to multiply this out, the order of the denominator is 2. And partial fractions only works when we've got an order of the numerator which is 1 less than the order of the denominator. So this is a hybrid. It requires both techniques, so it's a really good place to go next. So I'm firstly going to multiply out the denominator. I'm going to grid that out. And that gives me x squared. I get a minus x and a minus 2x. That's minus 3x plus 2. Still can't use partial fractions, obviously. This is still the same question. But now I'm going to divide this out. So I'm going to use long division to do this divided by this. It's going to be quick because they're the same length. But go on, I'm going to pause the video at this point. See if you can do that for me, and then we'll come back and see where we go and how we fit it into that answer. Okay, told you it'd be quick. We just say, what do I do to that to turn it into that? Multiply by 3. So that gives me this. Minus 3 minus minus 9 is plus 6. Minus 2 minus 6 is minus 8. So this is my quotient, or my answer, and this is my remainder. Now, if we go back to question 14, we know that once we've done that division, the quotient goes here, and the remainder goes over the number we've divided by, the divisor. So it's tricky here because we haven't got the framework like they gave us here at this point. This is 2 steps down the line, and we're only 1 step down the line. But I've done it, this divided by this, so I know the answer is 3 plus the remainder, 6x plus 8, over this, x squared minus 3x plus 2. So I've got my a. A is 3. So this needs to turn into this. And so this is a partial fraction question, isn't it? Because the order of the numerator is 1 and the order of the denominator is 2. So I'm just going to deal with this now. And don't forget, this is what you get when you expand those two brackets. So let's rewrite it as just in just the bracket form. So I've got 6x minus 8 over, 6x minus 8 over, well, that factorises out to give me that. And I know from partial fractions that that's going to give me something over x minus 1 plus something over x minus 2. And this is the easiest, really, sort of partial fraction. So go on, I'm going to pause again, just finish that one off for me. Now, of course, I was a bit of a doofus putting A and B there because actually we're trying to do this, aren't we? So forgive me, I've sort of scribbled, having done it all, I've changed it into B and C, so I hope that doesn't confuse you. So my A has become a B and my B has become a C. Anyway, hopefully the second line was nice and easy. Two values to substitute in were nice and easy. So I got that C, my C, was 4 and B is 2. So to summarise, going back to the original question, I worked out that A was 3, B is 2, so that's, and C is 4. And so that's the full process. So we started with a long division. We then took the remainder part of that long division and we partial fractioned it up. And this is a classic sort of two-step problem which really tests our understanding of this topic. So on page 18, again, like we had the other day with partial fractions, every question on that page is brilliant, but I'm going to focus on 4. Well, actually, I think 1 and 2 are so much like the example that I'm not going to go through those. Hopefully you can work through those and check your answers in the back. And if you get stuck, drop me an email. In a minute, I'm going to come back with 3 and 10. So why don't you have a go all 4 of those and then pausing the video and then come back and I'll go through 3 and 10 with you. Okay, so here's question 3. It was a bit of an odd one, which is why I wanted to go through it. So firstly, we multiply out the denominator and do the division. And the denominator didn't have a constant value, so you've got to put that in. So you've got like a dummy 0 this time, not a 0x or a 0x squared, but an actual 0. So how do you turn that into that? You multiply by x. So when you multiply... sorry, I've done that wrong, haven't I? No, I haven't. No, it's okay. So when you multiply out, when you get to the end here, x times 0, you've got to put 0x, not 0. So then you've got that take away that is nothing, that take away that is nothing, but we write it as 0x squared. And then minus x take away nothing is minus x, bring down the minus 3. So the next question, that was the funny one. So what do I do to that to turn it into that? Well, I multiply it by 0. So we've actually got a 0 up here. And then the rest sort of trickles through. So you end up with ax plus b actually being x plus 0. So b is 0. This bit is then the partial fraction bit. So we then split it back up into x and x minus 1. They asked me to use C and D. I used substitution. I'm hoping this bit is fairly straightforward, although I did say next lesson I'm going to get you to do some partial fraction practice, so that might be good for those of you who found that a bit hard. And so, yeah, C is 3, D is minus 4. And remember, in those questions where it just says find the values, this is fine. You don't need to rewrite it out in that form. Question 10, they didn't factorise it, but of course they've given us a clue here. Well, not just a clue, it is the answer to how you factorise it. So anyway, I did the division, and this was a particularly long one. No x cubed term in there, so I had to put a dummy x cubed term in, and sorted it all out. End up with, that's your quotient, so that's your ax squared plus bx plus c. A is 1, b is -1, c is 5. And then the remainder, we have to partial fraction. Horrible numbers here. Mustn't think you've done it wrong. You do get these sort of fraction answers. So there we go. We get e is 8 over 3, d is -38 over 3. And again, that is almost certainly going to be enough. If they did want us to write it back in this form here, well, I've got my x squared minus x plus 5. D is 38 minus 38 over 3, so I write that as minus 38 over 3x plus 2. And similarly, e is 8 over 3, so I write it like that. However, don't let that confuse you. That's by far the most common way. Right, so hopefully you've done 4 questions from that page. If you want more practice, then any of those questions in between are definitely worth doing. But I'm going to leave it there. Partial fractions practice tomorrow, and then on Friday we'll move on to something new. Take care.